Happy weekend. How's YouTube doing? I hope you're all right. I'm having a not too bad a day. I got my exercises in early and some things done around the house. Not a whole bunch. I'm sort of happy. We have a 2000 red convertible Mustang sitting in our yard. We just got back in the olden days. Well, up until about 10 years ago, even a little more recently, I would have went out and started detailing it and cleaning it up and, you know, to drive. But um, I don't do that anymore. I don't work for free. It's like, oh, a couple nights ago, Doug came in and asked if I would help him push a car around that's in the shop. I think like the Volkswagen or something. And I said, absolutely not. It was like quarter after 10. I said, I'm relaxing at night. I said, I'm not doing no such thing. And I'm not even sorry, because either we have to do things during the day around here and function during the day, or we have to do things during the night. But it can't be, for me, I can't be up all hours of the night and then get up and lead a normal life. And I want to do that. Like if one of my grandkids wants to talk to me on the internet and they're up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and if I don't get up till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they have no grandmother. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. So yeah, that's then I was thinking about the complications of maybe thinking about going to counseling with anybody that you would deem a narcissist. Hold on there a minute. Uh, yeah. If you can find a professional that knows about narcissists, the disease, the actual uh, unstableness of the people that you're dealing with and the sly nature, that might be one thing. But if you go into any kind of counseling and these counselors are not aware of the type of people they're dealing with, say you're a person that might be working on things in your relationship and it's really important to you, you don't want to fail in your life, you want to make it work. You're monogamous, you care about that person, you want to build a future together, but they're not seeing you on that same level. They're seeing you for what they can get out of you at that moments at that moment. And it doesn't go any further than that with them in their mind. So you trying to build a future and working on your faults or whatever that things that you might do that bother them, like one thing might be being honest or something, you know, kind of radical like that. But you might be working on your faults and they're not going to want to work on theirs. But if you get in a counseling office, you might have a counselor literally helping the narcissist demean you in this world unknowingly. But I don't know about that either because these people are professionals and they're trained to spot personality disorders. That's what they do. Um, for child custody case, I had myself psychoanalyzed by the top psychologist at that time in Minnesota. She was in charge of 5 different counties in our state. I made her cry. Not intentionally. I was just telling her about things in my life. This woman broke down and cried and offered me. like Zoloft or some horrible, or some of them other, I can't think of them offhand, drugs that you use for antidepressants. And I told her, there isn't a pill for depression. She said, well, it can lessen some of the effects. Yeah, and it can also lead to death if you run out of it or if you misuse it or whatever. I said, nah, it's, the chemical imbalances that we suffer from being like traumatized or terrorized or brutalized or, all these things. There's not a pill we can take that's going to help with that. But that poor woman literally cried. My point is, not only being a counselor myself, a trained counselor, um, to go and get myself psychoanalyzed ahead of time was two reasons. I had just went through a divorce with the father of my sons, and my sons were acting out a lot like him in life. And in order to deal with their BS, I needed somebody to talk to. That's really the bottom line. And I told her that too. I said, I wasn't really there for any kind of counsel, more consolence. And she knew that, and it's all on record. So if people are trying to smear my personality and my name in any way, I just wanted you to know that my brain has already been checked out by the top of the line psychologists, and we're in total agreement that the things that I've been through and suffered and my mind is sound, you know, regardless of all the attempts that people have tried to paint me in another light. But beware if you do go in, and then I did continue counseling with my sons and got them some counseling too because they had been through some really messed up, and I just didn't start it there. I mean, this has been ongoing for all of us seeking help to try and work our way through these um, emotional abuses that are going on this planet. I tried to get my adopted mom and dad and brother to come in and go to family counseling, and they wouldn't do it. They refused because they knew that their little Masonic asses would be in trouble if I got them in my setting. Would be my turf, the realm of the brain. They thought they were masters of the universe in that respect, but they knew they would find out different if I could have just got them in there, and they just would not do that. I wanted to. So yeah, beware if you're, and counseling could be good. I mean, if you're not with a narcissist, it, it I won't say it couldn't hurt because I've had like different, like maybe say if it was a pastor of a church or whatever, um come in and try and put their 2 cents in on my marriage. That might not be a good idea. You have to really examine who you're going to for your emotional care because they have to care, you know. That poor woman started crying. It was like, you know, I felt like hugging my therapist. How bad is that? You know, seriously, I felt kind of more empty when I was through. than anything else, you know. But I thought it was funny because I had done this ahead of time for my own care. So when my ex tried to take me to court to get custody of the kids, which the courts did deem in his favor, and I think a lot of it had to do with when they came out to talk to Doug and the lack of concern and other people's thoughts for those children. Different things that happened just totally set me up for a fall and my kids. But that's another story on that. But when they tried to, they said, well, you're going to have to go and get a current psychological evaluation. I just leaned over the counter and I said, I am a trained counselor and I just got through having a psychological evaluation for my own personal health. And in other words, see, my ex was trying to make me jump through hoops to even be to have rights to be around my children. I asked him for help after 5.5 years. I kicked him out. He took off for a while, came back, moved really close. We were sharing custody. Then he took off and left my kids alone like the day before they had to go to school at my parents' house. And I went and got them. But in the middle of the night. And my kids didn't see their dad for 5.5 years. And I worked and I went to school and I kept going like I always do, taking care of my kids. Needed some help. And they went and got an attorney and sued me for custody. Then they tried to sue me for child support. And I said, I'll move to Canada first. Nobody's going to, I will not pay another woman to raise my children. That's just not going to happen ever. And I could hear my ex screaming at the other end of the courthouse when my attorney went down and told them that he was fucking down there screaming. And I'm thinking to myself, well, at this point, my kids were 11 and 15. And they were really difficult to be around anyway. And although it was heartbreaking, I mean, the school bus would go by twice a day and I'd just about hit my knees in pain. Whew. It's not, and that lasted for years. My kids weren't even here. In fact, even after they came back, I remember like my youngest son was in the other room and the school bus went by and I still had that pain. It was like, wow. And he's still there. So I had to like snap myself out of that. It was wicked. But I'd try to call my kids and they wouldn't put them on the phone like they were supposed to do. And they did end up coming back. They could not handle them. They just couldn't. And they didn't love them anyway. So you don't abuse people you love. It's simple as that. I mean, you might have drug problems or something, but if you have mental problems that you're going to do horrific things to your own children, that's not love. There's no love connected in that. That's control. And that's all it was about, was to hurt me. It wasn't anything about loving those children. It never was. So do you ever have your spouse look at their own child with jealousy? Yeah, I didn't think that was possible. God knows what it was like. I go and watch my baby sleeping and have my ex next to me. We'd be looking at our baby, and I'm think with adoration, and it wasn't, on his part. That's sick to think, but it's actual. It's reality. Jealousy. It was crazy. So, yeah. yeah, the counseling thing, that was what was on my mind today. I was watching a couple other narc specialists and that got me to thinking about that counseling thing and how dangerous that actually could be for you. You know, it probably is not going to get you anywhere. Make things more frustrating, because you know when you hear words like who loves you, or nobody's going to love you more than I do, or you mean more to me than anybody has ever on this planet, or I'll never do those things to you like had happened to you before. Let me see what some really other good catchphrases. And I do mean catch you phrases. Um, who else would do this for you? Those types of things. Those aren't very loving statements. I just heard the other day. This is the double language of these double minded people. I'm taking a shower and Doug's making deals on the phone about like a truck and this car we just got and whatever. And he says through the door to me, I go, can't you just let me take a shower? And he goes, I'm just trying to set you up for the future. And I said back to him, that's what people have been doing all my life, is setting me up. And I'm sick of it. So you got to watch the language these people use because it is real. When he means set me up, that's exactly what he means. It's not he does not care if he drops dead and I starve, as long as he's okay today. And I really truly believe that with all my heart because life would be smoother if we both were working towards the same direction, So, yeah, just beware out there, people, with that double language of the serpent. So, you're going to set me up, all right. And, in some respects, yes, I'll benefit from stuff if I were to stick around to benefit from it at all. But pretty much it's just existing. That's You don't really strive together to build an empire. You exist together in close to poverty most of the time, although they can get and do anything they want to do on this planet. You're still accepting their breadcrumbs, their little pieces of whatever they get, which probably isn't that much anyway. And then they expect you to look at that like it's everything. You know, I think you got what I mean there. Yeah, and back me up there if you're wondering what that is a fish tank that is a terrarium right now. I might plant something in it again. I'm debating. I had put some silica sand in there, and that was for fruit flies that I had. So I'm gonna dig all that out of there and maybe use it again. I'm not sure, but I had two white albino African clawed frogs. They're totally aquatic, and I had them for 13 years. In the wild, they live to about 25 years old, from what they say. And we had a leopard one that had got out of the top of a different tank that we had, and a cat got it. So, and I wasn't home, I was at work. But these were my son's pets. We got them when they were this big around, and they ended up being about as big as my hand. Powder and Odie were their names. So And they used to, I slept pretty close to them, and they used to sing me to sleep. They'd sort of croak. It sounded like a chirp, like a bird, but they'd trill. It was like, you know. And the one would sit there with his hand on his waist and leaning up against the glass, talking to me. Odie was my buddy. He'd swim right into my hand, you know. So they were cool. So, and then I had a bigger tank with other things in there too. But they would eat most any other fish, like an angel fish. I had a coolioch and a yo-yo loach, and the only other um, fish that they got along with, in fact, lived for quite a long time, 9 years. I had uh, well, it's like a armored catfish. They're called a Picosmos, I do believe. Um, but they clean the tank, you know. So they got, in fact, Odie was cuddly. He would even hug that armored catfish. It was the cutest thing. So, yeah. So that's what that is, if you're wondering. Just stuff I have to wonder, what am I going to do with you now? You know? Yeah. So, yeah, that's why my room looks a little crazy, because it is a little crazy right now. And I don't feel like doing it right now. I do have to have strength. My day to day life, like yesterday, just to make something nice to eat was hard enough. I didn't even get my exercises done yesterday. I did a little housework and fed my kitties outside, and that was, and then I made biscuits and biscuits and sausage gravy to go on that. So, um, yeah, that's one of my favorite meals. I love it. I don't have it a lot, but because I shouldn't have the biscuit, the baking powder in there, and it's not really good for anybody. Actually, if you're eating things like pancakes or you know, with the baking cakes, those type of things aren't really good for anybody. So, but today I do health wise. My stomach feels better. I don't have a fever. So on that note, I'm doing okay so far, so good. I do have today. Doug had to run up to another town to talk to a friend of ours that wanted to buy back something he had sold us if we wanted to sell it again, a firearm. And so they're the best place to buy steaks is up in that town. And I asked Doug if he'll pick up just a lot of beef. I want to make beef jerky. So that's maybe next on my agenda. But that is nice because um, beef jerky, and to me, like beef jerky and a glass of milk is like enough food for the whole day, and you won't really need anything else. I make it in my oven. I cut stuff into strips and I salt it, like super salt it, but not too much. You can put pepper in there too, or garlic or hot sauce, whatever you want. But I usually just use salt, but pepper jerky is good too. But so I'm not sure which way I'll go this time, but I cut it in strips about an inch wide, and try and get them about 6 inches long. And they shrink up into about a half inch by about 4 inches then. And I put them over the racks in my oven, and you put it on its lowest setting, with tin foil on the, or aluminum foil on the bottom of your oven. And I have another rack that fits in there that's a air rack or grease rack that I use for the smaller pieces. So you just leave your oven ajar for approximately 8 hours. You can check them. You'll know when they're getting done because they get hard. And the smaller ones first are going to cook quicker, and then you can kind of start bunching them up in a pile or taking them out, and you can keep it, on the shelf or in your refrigerator, or freeze it. But jerky is meant to just be pretty much kept out in on the shelf, and it won't spoil for a really long time. But I do put it in the refrigerator because it just will last all that more, you know. So, but yeah, making your own jerky is, and keeping your oven ajar. I would use a wooden spoon for that. Um, Old timers we used to use when we had people had sewing machines. Well, I do, but and you have for the thread, you have small spools of thread and very large ones. The smaller spools that were wooden, you can use them too. So anything that'll leave your oven ajar just approximately about, like an inch, little bit, a little less than an inch. Just leave it enough for the heat to escape. I have a food dehydrator too, and I can make the jerky in there because it's the same principle as far as heating it a little bit at a time to cook it thoroughly at a low temperature for a very long time. Just like the natives might have on their racks that they would put over the fires or smoke it, same principle that you can do right in your oven. You just with the salting of the meat, and you can look up different recipes, but I use about twice as much salt as I would usually put on my food, maybe a little bit more. And then you mix it in your strips that you've got all cut and leave that in your refrigerator overnight or for 8 to 12 hours. And then it takes another 8 to 12 hours to cook it all. So it takes you about a half a day to cut it up and prepare it, get it in your fridge, set it overnight. What I like to do, I like to prepare all that like towards evening and make my mess, clean it up, put it in the fridge. The next day, I'll wait even towards the evening again because once your meat is salted, it's really not going to soak up any more salt. It's going to, the blood that drips out of the meat, it's just going to help with the curing process. It's going to help draw the moisture out, no matter what. So even waiting till the next evening isn't a big deal. So like 12 to 24 hours even isn't, but 8 will do it with the salt. If you want to do it all in one day, get stuff done in the morning, mix up your meat, and then towards evening. But towards evening, I like to, or night, like 10 o'clock at night, put my jerky on my racks in my oven. And then in the morning when you get up, you can check the bigger ones and see if they're done. And if they're not, I just take all the little ones out and then just finish the bigger ones out. And then usually by about noon that following day, everything will be done and cleaned up. And then you have enough jerky for a long time, unless everybody in the house eats it, like everybody will, including the animals, because they're spoiled. But they just want to have what we're having anyway, no matter what it is. It's like Doug's cat was begging me for sausage gravy last night. So I put some on a plate for them. They got their own plates and their own bowls and stuff. And I put it down there for him, and he didn't even touch it. he just wanted to see if I was going to give him some of what I was having because he's spoiled like that. So, anyway, cheers, everybody. Here's to you. Like my favorite one to Doug This Blew 'Em Away. You might have heard this or maybe not. Here's to you and here's to me, and if we ever disagree, F you. Here's to me. But I'm not doing that to you. So, but I will do that to some people. I haven't for a while though. Or over the lips and through the gums. Look out, stomach, here it comes. That's another one. Well, I'm going to let you go and get this uploaded. I didn't want to leave you lonely today. There's a lot of us, millions, if not billions, of people that are going through extreme psychological abuse from these families that have practiced these tactics from the beginning of time until now. If you just think about that, think about all these families, these toxic families that enable each other and don't call each other out for their, and if they do, it's like everybody accepts. Do you ever see these friends that call each other names and they do weird things to each other? And they do it to each other and then they just keep being friends because it's like normal to them. Whatever, right? So, yeah, the society they want us to remain in. No thanks. I need to change this world with all of your help. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you very soon. Have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.